don't think there should be an appeal, Peter. A big part of the reason for that is that it has been a long time where justice has been delayed, and of course, if justice is delayed further, I think that's denying these cattle producers who have done nothing wrong justice. This has dragged out for 9 years, in part because the Commonwealth did drag it through the courts to a certain degree, and I think it's right and proper that the Commonwealth Government be what is usually termed a model litigant, so it doesn't seek to unnecessarily delay court cases. It seeks to resolve them in a timely fashion for the sake of justice. Now, on the other point, though, on the legal point, my reading of it, I'm not a QC, I'm not a lawyer. I've spoken to many, though, in the past couple of weeks. My reading of it is that it's a very high bar to be accused, to be found of misfeasance of public office. I don't think that the judgment here changes that. The decision that was made by Jo Ludwig and the Gillard government 9 years ago was an incredibly egregious one that caused so much pain, and I don't think that that type of decision has been repeated in this government or in many other governments in our history, so I don't think it sets some new hurdle or bar for ministerial decision making.
You are the LNP Senator for Queensland, or you're certainly one of them. There's been a lot of debate in the press and other areas in the last few days about the future of LNP State Leader Deb Frecklington, and of course she came out swinging on Sunday saying that the backroom bullies wouldn't win, and then copped a standing ovation at caucus on Monday. What do you make of the shenanigans in the state wing of your particular party, and will it cost you votes heading into the next election?
Well, number one, first of say is good on Deb for standing up. That's what people expect. They want their leaders to show guts and determination, and Deb has certainly shown that this week. And I certainly believe that the future of Queensland would be much better served under a Premier Deb Frecklington than under the current Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk, supported by Green preferences, radical Green groups, and then of course even further radical of the Greens, Jackie Trad. So I hope that's what happens. In terms of whether it costs us votes or not, I actually think these types of things typically don't resonate far in people's minds. The next election, I very much think, will be determined on who is best to be able to provide the jobs and economic opportunity for Queenslanders to recover from this pandemic, but also just to rebuild Queensland after 6 years of Labor. We were already the weakest economy before in the Commonwealth before the coronavirus hit.
She's still not budging on the borders, Senator Canavan, Palaszczuk?
Well, this has been a game, right? Anastasia Palaszczuk has been playing a game with the livelihoods of Queenslanders. We've seen her go from a plan that was originally July 10th, then to September. Then she said she never said September, but we've all got her on tape and know she did. And now it's apparently back to maybe in July. It's been all over the shop from this Labor government. It's kind of true to their form, but it has created enormous uncertainty for so many businesses and workers across Queensland, especially those that are in those tourism hotspots in Gold Coast and the Whitsundays and in Cairns. And they don't deserve to suffer at the hands of an incompetent administration. We need a sensible government that manages these things properly. I was a supporter of the border closure. I thought it was right and proper to do what we could at the time to prevent spread and wait and see how things turned out. But it's pretty clear now that we should open our borders and get our economy moving again.
Child safety is a big issue in Queensland as well, Matt, and of course we saw the LNP spell out its plan to get this department back on track. It's going to rename it the Child Protection Department. Now, of course, one of the controversial aspects of that is that the Queensland LNP want to drug test some parents who they believe may be susceptible to child safety abuses. Do you support that?
I think that's a sensible idea given the high-profile and tragic cases we've seen recently where children, it's hard to describe, but children haven't even been properly fed or looked after. And in a number of those cases, drugs have at least been a factor. So I very much support putting the interests and health and well-being of children first, particularly young children who are vulnerable. They cannot, young children cannot survive without the support of a responsible adult looking after them. And we've seen tragic circumstances where those that should be the responsible adults looking after a young vulnerable child have not done so, often involving drug or substance abuse. And if we can prevent some of those circumstances from happening through something like this, I think it's worth a try. It won't prevent every circumstance, it won't stop every tragedy, but as I said, we must put the health and well-being of those young vulnerable children first.
Senator Canavan, before we go, I'm really interested in your thoughts on this so-called cancel culture. We've seen Gone with the Wind, pulled by HBO. We've seen a whole range of projects, Faulty Towers. We've seen some of Chris Lilly's stuff. We've seen an attempt to have coon cheese taken off the shelves. We've also seen a beer called Colonial, which is apparently a pretty good beer, I believe. There's moves to boycott selling that in a particular Melbourne bottle-o. Now, of course, that Melbourne bottle-o has come under a lot of pressure to reverse that decision. Where do you stand on this?
Well, Peter, it is easy to get yourself down from all these busybodies that want to stop us from having fun. But I actually think it's a great opportunity for Australians to show their larrikin spirit and thumb their nose at authority. I did watch the Faulty Towers episode this week in defiance of the naysayers. It's just as hilarious as when I first watched it. And I wanted to order some of this Colonial beer this morning. Unfortunately, I couldn't get delivered to my hometown. But I just walked in up here in the press gallery and there's some available. Some others are buying that too. So I'd encourage all Australians to get out there, support a local Australian business and pick you up some of this great Australian beer. Let's try it out, Peter. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Australian-made IPA. Get it. Go to Google search Colonial and pick yourself up some.
All right. Matt Canavan, great to see you tonight. Thank you for joining us.